And now let's talk about West Asia. These days, Joe Biden is paying close attention to the region. He has less than a year left in office. Biden desperately wants a foreign policy win, and he could be placing his bets on West Asia, specifically Israel and Saudi Arabia. Reports say the US is trying to broker a deal. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has visited Riyadh twice in 3 months. And recently, the chief of Mossad was in Washington. Mossad, as you would know, is Israel's spy agency. Officially, there is no confirmation, but it appears that some back-channel talks are underway. And what is on the table? Normalization of ties. Israel and Saudi Arabia do not have a diplomatic relationship. I'm sure you know that. For the longest time, Riyadh has supported the Palestinian cause, so there was never a question of having a relationship with Israel. But in recent years, things have shifted. It began with Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was president, and Iran emerged as enemy number one, both for Israel and for Saudi Arabia. And this brought them closer. They both want to contain Tehran, and this common enemy created openings for a relationship. Some Arab countries established ties with Israel. They signed what came to be called the Abraham Accords, and this could not have been done without Saudi Arabia's blessings. Then Riyadh allowed Israeli flights to cross Saudi airspace. So things were all going in the right direction, but Saudi Arabia has not yet taken the plunge. It has still not signed the Abraham Accords. Is that set to change? Well, there is a lot of buzz, a lot of diplomatic activity. American officials talking to the Saudis and Israelis. Reports say Riyadh has also made some demands. It wants some concessions for Palestinians. The Saudis have a wish list for America too. There are two major demands, basically. Riyadh wants American support for a civil nuclear program and a new security pact with Washington, D.C. The specifics of this agreement are yet to be spelled out, the specifics of these demands. But the nuclear program has been a long-standing demand of the Saudis. The kingdom wants to enrich its own uranium. Of course, Israel and the US have opposed this idea. They fear it will trigger a nuclear arms race. The opposition stems from mistrust. Israel fears the Saudis could overstep the mandate and a civilian program may open the doors for military use. This is the same old logic that is used to deter every country that wants nuclear power. But from Riyadh's perspective, this is non-negotiable. The nuclear deal is apparently a prerequisite for normalization. So this is where things stand. The question is, will Israel make these concessions on Palestine and on the nuclear deal? And will the US sign off on this? Like I said, they're still talking. But if Antony Blinken is to be believed, the Israelis and the Saudis are very keen on a deal. The US Secretary of State spoke about this in the month of June. He said, and I'm quoting, "It is incredibly challenging, hard, not something that can happen overnight, but it's also a real prospect and one that we're working on because both the Saudis and Israelis are looking for us to play a particular role in that effort. We are very much engaged in it." Blinken had visited the region in the month of June. He supported normalization. He said the US will not abandon the issue of Palestine at the same time.
Integration and normalization efforts are not a substitute for progress between Israelis and Palestinians, nor should they come at its expense. Israel's deepened relationships with its partners can and should advance the well-being of the Palestinian people and the prospects for a two-state solution.
So that's the American position. There can be normalization of ties, but not at the cost of Palestinians. It's a bit of a hard sell, but that's what they're going with. And Washington wants this deal as much as the Israelis and the Saudis. Not just for Biden's diplomatic win, which he very much wants, but also because this is their way of keeping Saudi Arabia close. Biden wanted to turn Riyadh into a pariah. He failed. He then tried to woo MBS, failed again. Now he's playing the Israel card. In the meantime, the Saudis have made their own moves. They refused to abandon Russia. They refused to increase oil output. And they went ahead and signed a peace deal with Iran. What's worse, it was brokered by China. So the US has a lot of ground to cover. They're eager to mend ties with Saudi Arabia, and normalization with Israel will help. But the biggest challenge right now is Israel itself. It's seen 7 months of protest and counting, and a looming civil war. They need to normalize this situation first before they can normalize ties with Riyadh.